Before today, NBA 2K26 was basically which small guard can hide behind screens and fade into an open three. But now, with the Season 2 gameplay patch that addresses a lot of the game's imbalances, well, let's just say these faders are in for a rude awakening. And man, it was a lot of these fake demons averaging over 30 points per game on bad shot selection. But in this video, we're going to go deeper than fades. We're going to break down every big gameplay detail from the new gameplay patch, including bump steals, the changes to dribbling, adjustments to the body up and collision system, whether 2K got the contest system and the ghost contest right in this patch, and maybe some of the bad unintended consequences caused by this patch. And let's start with one of the big issues to 2K26 prior to this patch, and it's those fadeaway jumpers that was too easy that was making guys shoot shots like this. So in this patch, 2K increased the difficulty of making pull-up fadeaway jump shots, and they had to make it known that this was based on community feedback, and from my limited playtests so far, I can confidently say that yeah, fades have been nerfed. I mean, you can still make them. I saw 2 out of maybe 15 to 20 fades attempted in the 2 games that I played. But this playstyle was devastating the balance of the game and it needed to be fixed. But what I've seen so far is that fades from 3 have been nerfed, and even for the midi, a lot of guys seem to be struggling with it so far. But for midi fades, this is something that I'm gonna make sure to look at in the upcoming days. But it's basically moving shots from the 3-point line. So here I have Steph Curry and I do the chef special to the 3-point line, and even with take, it was very difficult to time. It seems that globally, moving shots have been nerfed from beyond the 3-point line. What you're seeing here is pre-patch gameplay, and while it was fun to play like Steph, there's a reason why Steph is one of one, and not just any random rec guy throwing up whatever sorts of nonsense without meaningful repercussions to their playstyle and how the game was played. Alright, next let's talk about rhythm shooting, which was another one of the contentious gameplay points prior to the patch. So after the patch, they improved the reliability of rhythm shooting, but also they narrowed the window for timing and rhythm shooting. And based on my tests so far, this seems to be accurate. The closer you are to greening your timing, the better your chances are from greening your tempo. Meanwhile, the farther you are from greening your timing, that means yellow or red releases, you are less likely to hit a tempo shot. So now what we're seeing post-patch is that it's more difficult to hit tempo shots if you mistime your jumper more egregiously. However, something I noticed post-patch is that there are instances where there's a random hitch to rhythm shooting, completely throwing off my timing. This is something that you'd expect if you release too early or too late, but even if it's a slightly, I still get some of those hitches. It's happened enough that I noticed a hitch in rhythm shooting, which I'm guessing is unintentional, but hopefully 2K looks into this. But I need to observe this more and make some tests to see if 2K actually changed a lot of things under the hood for rhythm shooting that may be giving off this hitch motion if we do not time certain things correctly. So let me know based on your gameplay experience if you experienced the hitch. I've seen a few posts claiming that they have experienced it so far, so I know I'm not going crazy. Alright, next let's talk about ball collision steals and its impact on dribbling. So the gameplay patch added more reliable ball collision detection when dribbling into defenders and during blitz steal attempts. So in my opinion, this issue might be top 2 in terms of the imbalances in 2K26 prior to the patch. People simply use the invincibility frames out of escape dribbles to basically teleport around defenders, and the game already allows you to really combo and spam escape dribbles freely enough, but what makes it worse is they can spam escape dribbles until they teleport through you, making it the easiest way to beat your defenders. But take a look at this. This is literally the first possession in the first game that I played post-patch. You comboed 2 escape dribbles and then bam, that was a legitimate block steal. So a good sign at least is that there's more vulnerability on the ball. And in my limited playtests, I've seen people try to Curry slide, Kemba escape, Jimmy escape through defense, and the system is just not allowing it so far. So I think for most dribblers, you have to figure out when and how to use your escape dribbles, and to make sure that the angle out of your dribbles doesn't force you into a simple bump steal as a result of your defender just being there. But I think that's part of basketball, reading the situation, knowing what dribble moves you should use, But in my opinion, this is something that we need to look at more closely because we don't want a game where we can't actually dribble anymore. They also made several improvements to the body up system for better reliability, and I've been a bit more bumpy post-patch, but this is something I also need to observe because I didn't get matched up with too many skilled players which would have tested this out for sure. But in general, what I'm seeing is that if you're able to move laterally and keep up with your defender, if you got the requisite badges and ratings on perimeter defense, for example, as well as your agility, you will have the ability to stonewall your matchup. Again, with the ability to escape combo and to spam those dribble escapes, I think this is a good feature. As you see right there, there are still instances where someone can still go past through you. It's just you have to make sure that you don't spam these moves. Alright, I think a big thing for shot creators that was introduced due to the recent contest update is ghost contests. So in the new gameplay patch, they adjusted shot contest logic to reduce basically ghost contests in the game. So what you're seeing here is pre-patch gameplay, and the ghost contests were actually pretty bad. Take a look at this clip right here. This dude had his back completely turned to me. This is pre-gameplay patch 2.0. Just by virtue of being there and even with his back turned, he got a 22% contest, which is actually pretty ridiculous. Based on my tests of the gameplay patch so far, seems like ghost contests are a thing of a past. Take a look at Daniel Gafford here in poor position to contest. Had his back completely turned to Steph Curry, and as a result, this shot is open compared to the 22% contest that I showed you in the pre-patch gameplay. And as a result, our playstyle is once again amplified by removing ghost contests. As you can see from these clips right here, if you are not in proper position to properly contest a shot, those contests are basically non-existent. So this rewards players who cut certain angles, attack their defender properly, and make sure to get good open shots as much as possible. Now, as defenders, this also means you're going to have to invest more on perimeter defense to get those challenger contests. Alright, so these are pretty big gameplay changes that I think, at least from my first impressions, is for the better. But if you want to know what works, well, basically that's basketball, baby. Take good, smart shots. Create angles to create separation between you and your defender. Be efficient in how you beat your defender off the bounce. I've seen hop jumpers still be very effective from the mid-range. From the three-point line, again, as I said earlier, it seems to have gotten the same nerf that fades have received. But at least from the mid-range, you're gonna want to invest in a good hop jumper package to create some good separation. And oh yeah, floaters are still insane. I need to lab what works for dribbling. I can't comment on that too much yet, but I plan on being on my small guard tomorrow. But hop jumpers still work really great, and I think you just have to be really efficient with how you dribble the ball. So first impressions of the patch after playing one full offline game and 2 online games in the rec. First impressions are, I think this does a good job of balancing out the game overall. Nerfing fades from 3 is a welcome change to 2K26, but more importantly, the changes made to the body up and collision system and to steals, especially in terms of the vulnerability of multiple escape spam dribbles, I think that is equally as good as the changes to fades. I lost my first game in random rec because a guy who was basically fade spamming prior to the patch probably was still doing the same thing post-patch, and I just stood there just trying to see how the game is gonna humble these guys who were bailed out by these baby shooting sliders and the overpowered fade mechanic in 2K26. So am I ready to say that this is the best patch that could have saved 2K26? Not so. You know how the community is, they patch one thing, they'll figure out the next thing. I think this needs to be part of a package of changes to 2K26 to really unleash the full potential of the game. What happens when shooting is harder? Well, that means Zens, for example, might be on the rise, so I think 2K also needs to step up its anti-cheat enforcement. And while 2K has plugged the hole in terms of the big cheeses for 2K26 as of Season 1, We all know how good the community is in terms of finding the cheese, but that's just a usual 2K cycle and basically something that we'll have to figure out moving forward. I think one issue we need to look at is the effectiveness of steals. I've gotten a few bump steals just by being there, which, there's an argument that, is user error because my matchup dribbled into me and I think he should be penalized. All I'm gonna say is that I play a very efficient dribbling style on my 2 guard especially, and honestly, I did not get plucked a single time, but that's because I play a different style from what most 2K players probably do. So I'm curious to see how this shakes out in particular. I think the steals issue is gonna be one of the biggest complaints from the community moving forward. I've seen people on some Discord servers and some Twitter clips saying that, they've seen 8 steals, 9 steals. But again, just like in Season 1 where I said, 2K took their time into figuring out the balance of the game, I think we need to wait for this patch to see how things shake out through the next few weeks. In reading the gameplay patch earlier, my first impression was this all sounds good on paper, but implementation is where we need to see how this thing shakes out. Now, the rhythm shooting hitch is something that I think also needs to be taken a good hard look at. Again, I'll do some further testing on rhythm shooting to see if this was intended by 2K or if this was something that 2K will also need to address, because I do know that they addressed a rhythm shooting hitch issue in one of the earlier gameplay updates. So first impressions, I think this patch is a step in the right direction in terms of overall game balance. Just nerfing the tempo fades from 3 or fades in general, I think is good in terms of making sure that there's playstyle diversity and that rec games don't just resort into hide and seek screens, left right dribbles into a fadeaway 3. The steals and the body up collisions out of the dribble animations I think are a great change. Being able to Jimmy escape or Kemba escape or Kyrie escape left right with no consequence, I think is one of the big weaknesses of 2K26 prior to the patch. Post-patch, that seems to have been addressed, and I'm wondering if the 2K community will basically adjust to the changes made to make dribbling a little bit less, overpowered in terms of the invincibility frames that you get out of certain dribble animations. So there you have it, a quick breakdown of the latest patch and my thoughts on the game so far. But let me know, do you think the patch is a W? I'm in wait and see mode and test the game mode some more. But first impressions are positive, but once again, if there's anything the 2K community is good at, it's adjusting once the cheese is plugged, and I'm curious to see how the 2K community responds overall. So I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you learned something new. I decided to postpone the tutorial for small guards just to make sure that what I'm going to put out there isn't subject to a lot of the changes made to, body up collisions and the ball detection out the dribble animation. So I'm going to have to redo the small guard scoring system, particularly the dribbling part. But that should also be dropping over the next few days. And I'm also going to attempt to make a comeback into realistic NBA highlights for players alongside a tutorial. So stay tuned for that. So hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of gameplay patch 2.0 so far. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.